Good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll just get going. People may join the respective time, those who have joined right at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope all of you are safe at home. Quick introduction about myself. I'm Sheetal Maikar. I handle the strategy and marketing at NSEIT, and I will be host for today's webinar. Few quick tips before we start this webinar. We would like to keep this session more interactive. So please use your chat tab to post any questions that you have during the webinar. We have 3 speakers with us today. I will definitely giving you intro shortly. So if you have a choice of a speaker who would you want to answer your question, please feel free to post that question so the right person can address your query. There will be polls which will come up during the session. It's a little more interactive, as I said. You can voice out your opinion, and it will help us to understand your need and the reason why you're here today. And of course, post these questions. We will also send you a feedback link. Please share your feedback on the session. So any expectations, anything that we can improve on, because we keep having these knowledge series sessions, we would be happy to take this up and help it more improved as per your expectations. So now today's topic of discussion. Today's topic of discussion is all about data. I think data is the oil. Data is new economy. I think these are some of few things. Like we keep hearing multiple conferences, and everybody is talking about data. The way the world has moved in digital, especially in COVID-19, a lot of things have been pushed into digital. Some of the things we were just discussing in the forum were forced to go in digital way. The amount of data which is generated today, whether I think some of the report I came across and I saw that it almost 2.5 quintillion bytes of data get generated every day. And every organizations today has lots of data. Indian BFSI industry also, when we discussed, there is so much of data, it's scattered everywhere, and everybody's struggling and said, how do I use this data? So I think that 4 V's that everybody talks about: veracity, velocity, volume, and a variety of data. And how do you get that together and create that data pipeline and build the data operations so it makes sense for you, and you will be able to take a better business decisions and do have a long-term plan based on the data that you have. And that's what the topic of discussion today. And not taking much time, I think I'll give you a quick introduction about NSEIT and why NSEIT is talking about the data. Yeah, so the presentation flow is going to be a quick introduction, which I already gave you. Why are we here? About NSEIT, why have we partnered with Qlik, and what we bring together as the proposition for you. Our experience with NSEIT, we've been working with NSEIT. We're working with a Qlik for certain projects, so we'll take you through that. Qlik introduction and what tools the Qlik gets you on board, and any questions and answers that how we can help through this partnership together. I think the next one is, yes, NSEIT. Who is NSEIT? Many people think that the NSC is closely connected, only work with NSC. It's not like that. We are a 20-year-old organization. We have been working very closely with the Indian BFSI sector, right from top-notch insurance companies to regulators. And over a period of time, especially last 3-4 years, we have realized having hands-on on the legacy system that they have, there is a need to change the technology DNA. Now you've seen, when we work with the banks, we work with the insurance, the DNA or the technology DNA of each of the bank is very, very different. So you have to mold, or the solution that you bring to them needs to be, be very, very focused for them. So we keep having those skill set and work ourselves on the new agile technologies. So we have 150 odd plus client in BFSI in India today. We have a different skill sets which are embarked for NSEIT, and in fact we have 270 city plus presence. We are very process oriented, especially because of our connect with the large PSU government projects that we do. We ensure that we have this ISO certification, CMI, and ISO CMM Dev 5. So we've been looked at more trusted technology partner. We have been building a domain consultancy because we've realized what every industry needs is a very close-ended, opinion and the direction, because we always believe that we have a DNA to become a partner in growth rather than having a purely a vendor-client relationship. Just moving on, yes, about our technology platform offerings. So largely when we have interacted with different clientele, we have realized there is a need to do app modernization, where people are looking at, entire platform or the legacy system to be moved into a different, stack, make it more microservices based, API based, because it's a connected ecosystem today. So what we did, what we are trying to do is focus on these areas, try and identify partners across the globe who has been doing, of course, in India as well as outside, which could help us address our customer problems. So whether it is business transformation, whether it is data and analytics, we've been partnered with, and it's morely handpicked, I would say, the alliance partnership we get in India. And very similar partnership, it's Qlik today, because data analytics, I think, is the core objective, and everybody is looking at how do I monetize my data, how do I make use of my data, and that's why NSEIT Qlik partnership. Qlik has done the multiple implementation, has been, so when we decided data and analytics practice, we would want to build from scratch, and some of the problem statements we heard from the client, we realized a partnership which could help us scale their business further and can make a partnership growth. And when we're evaluating, I think Qlik was the one partner name which came forward as the winner, and we thought we could do wonders together. And that's how, with the vision that we could give a single and reliable version of sync data with the data integration services and some of the tools Qlik has, we have done this partnership, and together today we are going to deliver what we can do for you. For a specific problem. So for today's session, we have 3 speakers with us today. We have Prakash Marjan, who is a Vice President Digital, who is a delivery head at NSEIT. He is the one who looks after data and analytics practices. He is associated with NSEIT for a couple of years now. He has 24 years of experience in the software industry. He has successfully led projects across India, China, Germany, and Ireland. I am a alumni and certified product manager from AIPPM. He has extensive experience in the area of product lifecycle management. His comprehension on the latest technologies such as RPA, analytic, blockchain, microservices is impeccable. And he's an expert when it comes to such kind of client problems. We go to him and say, hey, Prakash, what to do? We also have Ravi Iyer. I think Ravi Iyer is the one who leads the Qlik partnership. He is a territory account manager at Qlik. He specializes on the BFSI. He is a business analytics and big data enthusiast with sales and solution experience over 16 plus years across leading consulting and system integrations firms. Ravi is the territory account manager for BFSI segment at Qlik. Solid industry expertise of sales, business development, solution management across leading banking and insurance companies in India. Good to have you, Ravi, here, because we have BFSI guys who are attending, and I'm sure they'll get to know more from you. Ravi has worked strongly across CPG, retail, and manufacturing, as well as his ability to build strong relationship with business heads to drive business, as well as take engagement to successful execution. Welcome, Ravi. Welcome, Prakash. And the third and a very important, I think, important function across when we go to any solutioning is a solution architect. We have Ashwath Raj. He's from the West India Qlik. Having total experience of 5 years in IT product and service industry, Ashwath is a solution architect from Western India for Qlik. He has worked across multiple business intelligence and ETL platform for organization across domains like credit rating, manufacturing, financial advisory, and telecommunication. Ashwath has passion for data visualization. Good to know Ashwath, because that's, I think, is the demand today. He utilizes every opportunity to explore various tools and technologies on it, and he will be demonstrating the live demo for us today. So that's what the agenda and the speakers today. I think I will not take much of a screen time. I'll hand it over to Prakash. But before Prakash takes it over, there's a small poll which is coming up for you. We would be happy to know your answers to that poll. And from there, I think Prakash will take on. Over to you, Prakash, and welcome everyone.
Thanks, Sheetal. Yeah, so the answers are coming in. Only 9 people have voted. You guys can vote. Have 20 seconds more to go. Like to see what are the problems that this team is facing right now. Okay. Yeah, so the results are on the screen now. You can see what the question is, what are the challenges you face while working with the data in your organization? So I think 50% of the crowd here are thinking that data format consistency is an issue. Then the next one is reliability of data pipeline is the second. Data integration is the third. So it's a pretty consistent with the theme of this webinar. Okay, so I'll just stop this and I'll go forward with the poll. Okay, so this is the first precursor to our discussion. I just wanted to set the stage for for you guys to understand what Qlik is all about and how NSEIT actually can transform, and a lot of the problems that most of the organizations have when it comes to data analytics. We're trying to collate, and we're trying to look at some solutions for these in the next 30-40 minutes. Okay, so if you are having a lot of these problems, so we really need to think your data strategy. If your data team is burning out with minor ticket requests, most of the times business team is really waiting for data and the data team is struggling, and this SLAs they are not able to meet the SLAs. Okay, then if your business, you give the data, I mean, you are a part of the data analytics team and you give the data, but your business users do not trust the data, or they think that you're taking too long to get the data. So that's also another indicator for you to look at rethinking your data strategy. Your data environment is it's too chaotic. I mean, it is really a lot of people say that they have the data warehouse, they have implemented end-to-end data analytics solution, but when it comes to predictive analytics, it's not there. I mean, you just it's completely absent. It's really helping the business. The answer to that is not very encouraging. Okay, so if that is also happening in your organization, so you need to rethink about your data strategy. The last point, which is very important, is, are you really agile business? I mean, do you have agility in your business intelligence? Is it really that you have a BI report that is expected, and then your software vendor takes it away, and then he comes back after 6 months, and then you have some changes, then he again comes back after 2 months. So do you have any agility problems in these organizations? So maybe 6 months and 3 months is really a long time. I mean, a lot of people might have tackled that now, but what we are talking about is we are moving into dashboard-less concept, where we're talking about NLP based business intelligence. So you just have to give a query, how my sales is doing, how my south is doing versus north. So that kind of queries you could just put, and then your analytics or your business right there in front of you. So if this is not there in your organization, so you definitely need to rethink your data strategy. So for all these 4 points we talked about, we have to have. So the importance is, when you're talking about organizations, the response to rapid business changes is really critical. You have to tame the unruly data pipeline. So you have a lot of data which is structured, unstructured. Most of the organizations have data in Excel. It's also sitting on somebody's desktop, somebody's laptops, or it is in central drive, where the security is an issue. So a lot of issues with the data people are facing. Then once you have the environment, the continuous integration and testing also doesn't happen. So you have a data pipeline, but the end-to-end flow of moving a data into the analytics and getting it as a part of your visualization really takes long time. So that continuous integration and testing also is not there. And then agile, and so as I said, whether your whole BI practice is agile, can you make changes where the business is changing? So right now, just one example that I can give, most of the organizations are really worried now because whatever data they had, I mean, this is global problem, right? I mean, they're talking about, say 1 year before, everybody had a very mature data analytics practice and they were able to predict, like airline industries or maybe hotel industries. But now if you look at after COVID, everybody's data is kind of reset. Now, are they going to turn it around very fast, or are they going to require another 4 or 5 years to get there? So that is where the agility is extremely important. Okay. So these are the general problem that everybody's facing. I'm not saying your organizations are also. A lot of maturity must be there in a lot of organizations, but I mean these are important drivers. You have to ask a question to yourself: are you really on right track? Okay. So with that pretext, I'll just try to introduce a concept called DataOps. So DataOps is, you have heard about DevOps. So DevOps actually gives you a complete agility. So when you talk about DevOps, just one small example, we will give you a hint that when you talk about Facebook and Google, they do almost 3,000, 4,000 releases every year. So when you're talking about a year, which is 300 working days or 200 working days, that means you're talking about at least 100 releases going into the system every day. So that is possible only with DevOps, because you're really doing changes, and the whole process of change, deploy, testing, and go live is automated. So likewise, data ops is exactly similar, but it is related to data ops. So what we are talking about here is you have to design your data pipeline, and then it has to be packaged, deployed, orchestrated. Monitoring is very important, and then you should be able to promote it to the next level. Okay, so it has to be really swiftly happening, like the way it is shown in this diagram. So you have first you will do your data operations with sandbox exploration, where you will actually do some kind of trial testing, and then you will do standing validation. It is more like a pre-prod kind of environment, and then you directly promote it to production. So all of it is really happening at a extremely agile pace, and it is actually with certain set of tools and the technologies. So the vision that you have for your organization has to be built in such a way that this kind of agility you get, and data ops has to be implemented. So what are the benefits of data ops? You will have faster process, real-time insights, focus on important issues, and you catch errors immediately. Okay, so this is the really important aspect of data ops. So when you have data ops, you will get real-time insights. So right, when we are talking about a stock market yesterday, I mean, we had certain glitches in exchanges yesterday, so they immediately extended the time. Now, how does it really impact the analytics or the algo trading that the brokers have? So it can only happen if they have real-time insights, and if they have their processes set, which are actually helping them to address all the important issues. Okay, so this is data ops for you, and to be very, I mean, it gives me a pride to tell you that a lot of our projects where we are doing data analytics, this data operations is an implemented practice. Of course, a lot of it is also driven through using Qlik as a technology. My partner will tell you more about it. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide. So with these two problem statements, so first was the problem statement in the industry, and second we talked about the data ops, how it can actually solve the problems. I'll tell you where NSEIT is contributing. So this is first case study. It is extremely interesting case study. Okay, so here we are talking about one information utility. Okay, so there is something called as IBC, which is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which was announced almost 5 years or 6 years back in India. And it was kind of a revolutionary law in India. If this law would have existed some 10 years before, a lot of problems that we had, the companies which went down without any help, like Kingfisher, would have survived today, because this actually lays a extremely good framework using which a lot of ailing companies can be revived, and there could be funding possible. So we are working with their one of their subsidiary, the IBC, the company which is a government company which is working under the aegis of IBC, which is the regulator is IBBI, and they are providing an information utility. So what this information utility does is actually when you are talking about a lender or a borrower scenario. So let's say Prakash Marjan, if I take a home loan, the home loan actually goes to the bank, okay, and then I take the loan from the bank, and when I've taken the loan from the bank, bank is declaring to information utility that Prakash has taken the loan, and I also go and give my consent, yes, I have taken the loan. So this information utility actually has a workflow, and it takes data from both. So you can imagine this is kind of a legal or a regulatory requirement. So this particular information utility has tons of data. So all the retail loans, all the corporate loans, it is mandatory for all the banks to send this information to this information utility company. So there we have done this project. So there, sorry, yeah. So there we have actually the objective that we had was they wanted to build a complete data warehouse, okay, because there is a huge amount of data that is coming in, and because there is a data that is coming in, we have to look at the security role-based access, because the bank which is pushing the data is really also interested to get the data back, okay, because they want to see how the data that they shared, what is happening to the data and whether it is processed or not. Okay, so that and then as a regulatory body, they have to also, they wanted some reports. So on the right hand side, if you look at, there are you have to look at which is the good debt, what is the bad debt, what kind of portfolios people are investing in. So the regulator has to keep an eye on the the lending or the credit profile of the country. So they're looking at a platform to set up which will give them all this. Okay, so here we have features of interactive dashboards. The analytical reports are there, where as I said, which are the overdue analysis, default analysis, which sector is defaulting, what kind of weather information that is linked. So in pandemic, how the credit or the default is happening. So this was all. So this is from the functionality point of view. And on the database side, we have built this whole data warehouse using MySQL, and from the ETL perspective, use Talend. We could have used Qlik also, but here we have used Qlik Sense for visualization. Okay, so this is what the first case study, and it is really it talks volumes of our achievement on this project. Okay, I'll go to the next case study, which is this is again for a very large exchange. What they're trying to do is they're trying to set up the profile for their members. So we have clients and members. They're actually sending the entire trading information to them. So what happens is at an exchange level, the exchanges are regulated by SEBI, and SEBI is expecting them to keep really an eye on every transaction that is happening. Okay, and you look at the transaction. So on NSE, the number of transactions that happen are close to 2 billion transactions per day. I mean, that is a humongous transaction. And for each of these trades that are happening, the broker community is sending a lot of data to exchanges. Okay, now this data has to be monitored. So if you look at the benefits, the system that we have implemented, they were looking at some kind of an inspection to be done. So what kind of client, what anomalies clients are creating? So are the clients doing any suspicious activities? Okay, are the clients actually completely exposed? So are there any areas where clients have not provided sufficient margins for the trade? And is it really going to create catastrophic damages to the exchange? So the objective of this and benefits to an extent I just explained. So these are the objective with which actually we started this project. Okay, and the features of it is you give a controlled access to regulator, you give controlled access to the exchange, you give controlled access to clients, and each of these accesses have to be completely secured. Then the linkages with the client has to be done with PAN, email ID, address, so that you're talking about a complete KYC control. Okay, so this is again a massive platform that NSEIT has put in. Okay, and here the best thing about this platform is the entire data entire data pipeline and visualization is completely done with Qlik toolset. So we have used Qlik Replicate for data ingestion and CDC, which is from so we are taking the data from Oracle data warehouse, and also the data is coming in unstructured format where the members are sending the data. Then we have Qlik Compose for ETL to build the complete pipeline for the analytics. And then Qlik Sense is once you have completed the ETL piece, we have put Qlik Sense as a visualization layer. So this is also another extremely good case study that we have, where NSEIT together with Qlik platform and our team, we have actually gone ahead and put this platform. And this is a massive data warehouse or data analytics project that we have done. So these are the two projects with which I just wanted to give you the kind of work NSE has done and how actually NSE can help. So I just would like to just take a last 1 minute, and I'll tell you how NSEIT and Qlik can help you. So here, I'm sure a lot of you are looking at a project implementation the way we have implemented. So we would actually help you with the strategy. So we could come up and develop an integration roadmap and framework. We can identify the system. We can identify what are the gaps. We could give you a complete blueprint how it can be implemented. So this is from the strategy perspective. NSEIT and Qlik can come and help you together. And then once most of the times people get the strategy right, which is only 20% of the whole thing, but then the people go wrong in the implementation. So here we're also there to help you with the implementation. So we have a team of data scientists and solution architects who are working with us actually, and they will help you to implement this project end to end. Most of the times, just a quick example on the implementation is, most of the times people think that the data that they have is really good, but when you get to implement, you realize that there is a lot of problem with the data quality itself. And we have that's one of the part that we concentrate really hard. And we give our advice to our customers that you can't hope that this piece will get over in say 2 weeks. You need to keep more time, and we work closely with them to get it right. Okay, so we give you a realistic implementation timeline plan, and then we also execute. Okay, so this is where NSEIT and Qlik can actually come to the table and address the data analytics problems. Okay, so with this, I would hand it over to Ravi.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Prakash. I think this whole partnership has been is really headed towards really transforming organizations. Making the looking at the core. If you are talking of big data, then you rightly talked about the various. The various customer use cases where we are talking about tons of data, volumes of data, and we are talking about a lot of variety of it. And there's a lot of collaboration involved today, because today the whole industry, the BFSI industry, is heading in that direction, where we are talking about banks, NBFCs, regulators, customers, the industry, everybody coming together, and that's what really reflects. So we are very we are very glad to be in this partnership. And I think the whole value proposition that we bring together is the industry understanding which NSEIT has, and the understanding of the platform and experience which we bring in, and together, right from strategy to execution to operations and to sustenance is what we basically strive at. So moving on, no, there were several very good themes which came out as a part of this, part of the initial discussions. So one is definitely in BFSI, the regulatory hurdle, whether it be from RBI, NABARD, or SEBI, or any of the various regulators, the various the volumes of the kind of reporting which needs to be done, the kind of uh, the kind of information which they expect in terms of detecting anomalies, in terms of fraud analytics. These are all very clear use cases which have come up, and all this requires a, a sheer velocity of data, sheer way in which data has to flow in from the various sources, get in, get transformed and then be consumed by the various stakeholders. So that's definitely one area, the regulatory space, the collaborative space. And then, in addition to that, I would just like to take a step back to just quickly throw some light on some of the other areas in BFSI. The whole customer intelligence space, where we are really talking about, the whole variety of data comes into play, the volume comes into play when we are talking about internal and external data, bringing in, live feeds from various social media channels. So whether it be a banking customer or a insurance customer, this becomes very critical in order to build the a customer golden record, in order to understand the customer holistically and be able to really enrich that information. So it's all about enriching that information. That's where the intelligence piece comes in. The other aspect is about the way we are looking at processes. So both banks, especially after the onset of fintech, have been really relooking at the lending process, and how to bring in more agility there. And that's where a lot of automation has come into play. It's all about relooking the way you're doing business. And the whole pandemic, the whole of majority of 2020 has really helped everybody to relook at the way they are selling, the way banks and insurance organizations are interacting with the customers, the way they have relooked at the operations on how to balance the risk and reward. That is, more about looking at how to improve the profitability, look at cost optimization. So these have all been the various areas which, through the leverage of data, the industry has been working on. So moving on from there, just to talk about, at the end of the day, there are certain set of business problems which, whether it be a bank or or an NBFC or an insurance organization or even the regulators, because now all of them are part of one collaborative ecosystem. They are all looking at in terms of achieving. So whether it be in terms of customer analytics, all about customer and product profitability. Then the other aspect about looking at operational efficiency, as I talked about, as I mentioned about looking at the processes, trying to reduce the cycle time. Now the whole idea of data ops is about bringing that agility, bringing that pace, so that you can be more dynamic, in terms of the intelligence, in to be able to address the address your customer requirement, the changing customer requirement, because it's going to be very dynamic. It's not static the way we used to look at analytics in the earlier days. When banks had set up some warehouses and they were doing some reporting, which was more on a batch model. But today, the need of the hour is to do it more real time, to really action the data, not just generate those reports, but then action it. So that's where the the various use cases come into play. Some of the some of the use cases which I would just like to quickly talk about here is one, definitely around risk analytics. Now, some of the credit analytics companies, like Moody's, for example, they have to really they have to build those risk models, and they have to then benchmark the various customers, who are who have been profiled in those risk models. And all this requires a huge volume of data, and it requires a lot of churning. And then after that, there is also a relook of the models, because the models which are built are today based on certain customer parameters, but tomorrow when we we're relooking at new data points which come in, which enhance the customer profile, the whole model needs to be revisited. So again, that's where the intelligence platform, like Qlik, comes into play to give that insight to the to the customer, to the stakeholders, and be able to rapidly take action on it and take move forward around it. So that's one aspect. The other approach is more about really looking at the concept of embedded analytics. For example, if you take somebody like an HSBC, they when they are looking at serving some of their customers in helping them improve their cash and liquidity positions, giving them that kind of a platform. That's where they look at bringing in this as a part of their whole portal, their customer facing portal, wherein customers can come in and then they can manage their portfolios there, manage the liquidity there. So they offer all these services, and that's where again where platforms. The analytics platforms like Qlik come into play, and these are some of the customers we're talking about. And of course, about fintech, as I mentioned, that has really transformed the way we're looking at things. On similar lines is insurance. Now, when we again talk about insurance, then we are talking more about areas of underwriting, about looking at early claims. So these are all the various use cases which various customers are looking at addressing, and they've been addressing through the Qlik platform, where they uh, look at getting all the data, doing the exploration on the data, and then constantly updating the data by bringing in more and more information to enhance it. And that's where the whole theme of today's session is about the about having those agile data pipelines, about the whole data operations piece. But that is what really takes you keeps you sustainable and helps you move from one level to the other. As the as initially we were talking about the 5 V's of data, it helps you really move from volume to variety to velocity very seamlessly. So that's about insurance. And again, we've been in this business for long, and we have a thorough understanding, and that's what we are doing with customers in India. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of the customers who are at different journeys. For example, somebody like a Bank of Baroda, they are today doing their whole data lake journey, where they are as a part of that whole journey, they've moved from their traditional warehouse, traditional reporting, to a more modern platform. And that's where again they deployed a data lake approach, because that really helps them bring up that scale. So now with the whole data lake approach and the power of the Qlik analytics platform, they've been able to get the right insights to their stakeholders. And it's not just been as I mentioned, it's all about collaboration. So banks, insurance companies, regulators, they're all collaborating today. And one of the on a different front, something like a blockchain has been a phenomenal approach for collaboration. And that has really brought the various stakeholders together for a common cause, and that's what all of them are doing. And then similar way, the various the different customers you see are, they're doing different use cases, which we were talking about some time back, across the board. And the underlying theme is that they've all become more and more agile with data, and they've deployed more data ops much more seamlessly. So moving on, just to kind of drill down into the into the data pipeline. Now the whole idea, as I mentioned, is organizations started off with some level of analytics. So banks, regulators, they've all taken that journey where they started off. They built certain warehouses with certain ODS systems, built reports on top of it. But then after that, when it came about really looking at even addressing regulatory requirements, then it used to be a struggle, because you have to really bring in the data in, which used to take time, then clean it, process it, and then push it back to the consumer layer. Now, when we talk of the analytics data pipeline, then all of this becomes very seamless, because you set up that mechanism by which you bring in you have a approach, a standard methodology to bring in any new data source which comes in, whether it is the core banking or the policy administration data, or you are bringing in any external data. It all comes in through, and then you're freeing up the data basically from its silos, and you're bringing it into the data layer. And once you bring it into the data layer, then post that, the next step is to go deep dive into the data to understand the data. What is the business context of data? So today, is this data is this my customer data? Is this my regulator data? What is the grain of the data? Who is the user of this data? Who will be the consumer of the data? So all those aspects about the data, bringing that data catalog, that is what becomes the next step. So that is exactly what most all the organizations have started on, and I'm very sure all of you coming in from the from this industry are adopting it, and really looking at accelerating the journey. And that is exactly, as Prakash mentioned, NSEIT and Qlik coming together with this value proposition, which can help you really drive the value across the data pipeline. So this is one aspect. And then once we get a very good understanding of the find the data, build the catalog, then comes the whole visualization analytics part, where there are new ways to look at it. So there's a traditional way of there was a I mean the most traditional way of querying the data. Then you start looking at reports, and now it's all about conversational analytics, being able to talk to the data. So in this case, even if we look at today various virtual branches, or we look at the way customers today, especially in the virtual world, interact, it's all about using voice, using easy ways to communicate, whether it's through Alexa or through Siri or any of the voice assistants. And so that is so it's all about making it much more much more informal in terms of interacting with data and getting that perspective. And that's where the understanding piece comes, and which is what the BFSI industry is really gone leaps and bounds. And that is where we definitely see a big role of the fintech industry, which has been able to provide those solutions, and to get those accelerators. And then the fintech industry has also been leveraging the platforms like Qlik to get past the various levels of data maturity. Um, and then once we get all of this in, and we have a good perspective of the data, then what typically happens is, whether we talk of we look at a bank or an insurance company, where they're looking at customer upsell cross sell, where they have built a model, they have gathered a list of leads. Now what next? I have the data, I've analyzed it, I know the profile, but what do I do next? Then the next objective becomes to push it to the campaign management system, or to the CRM management system, or to a portal, and get acting on it. And that becomes very important, because data just residing in those systems or in those reports has no meaning, unless it goes in to where it has to be really where it drives business value. In this case, it goes to the campaign management system. They use the leads, they they're able to gather the required uplift in the campaigns, and then there's a feedback loop. So it's not just a one way street. It's about this information flowing back to the systems, giving that, enriching the data. You go back, you enrich the data, because you had a new perspective of data. Well, every time you action on the data, you get a new view of it, and then you have to really enrich it, so that you can leverage it the next time to improvise your use case. So that becomes the actioning part. And all this basically leads to the idea of the active intelligence, because what we are talking about is, information is real time. Information has to flow into the processes, to every process, so that that process can make the best use of the information, and drive value for that organization. uh, and then at the same time, they should be able to give the information. The action is also in terms of being giving the triggers, especially if we look at the the securities industry, and algorithmic trading kind of examples, where you are looking at thresholds of trading. You reach a certain threshold, and then based on that, there is a there is an alert, there is some that is what all stock markets, they keep tracking. So you need those triggers. Similarly, in case of banks, it's all about the exposure, whether it is in lending or in trade finance. What is the there are some exposure limits. If those exposures are breached, then there should be an alert. So those are the various uh, needs of the hour, for the industry, and combined with AI ML, which is embedded as a part of the whole activity of analysis. That is where we as Qlik are bringing this whole value proposition, which will help you enhance your data pipeline and then really get active on intelligence. That's the whole idea. And that is where both NSEIT and Qlik aspire to work in the DataOps, in the agile DevOps model to get that value for you quickly. It's all about generating that value, taking you to the next level, helping you drive business value, and moving on to the next use case. That's the whole idea, and being very very agile and dynamic about it, which is key for all of this to be very successful. So that's the perspective which I wanted to bring in from a Qlik perspective, from from the Qlik platform. And this is just to add, so all that I talked about now, my colleague Ashwath, he'll get into a bit more detail through the demo. But it is all about, it's the analytics supply chain. So we are it's a traditionally a manufacturing concept about having a supply chain. But when we talk of data moves in from one step, one section to the other, and at every layer it adds value to the data, and then then it goes to the end consumer. And so we as Qlik, we help you address this entire value chain, through the platform, whether it's through the data engines or through the analytics engine or through insights. So and Prakash also talked about some of the use cases where this is really adding value. So we'll definitely talk more about it. So moving on, I'll just hand it over to Ashwath, who will do a bit more deep dive into the technical platform, followed by a demo. So thank you everyone. Over to Ashwath.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi. Right. So this is the end-to-end analytics story of Qlik. So traditionally, we've been in the data analytics space with our products ClickSense and ClickView, but now we have branched out into the data integration space as well. So on the left-hand side, you can see we have three components. First is the CDC streaming, which is our Qlik replicate tool, which can move your data from your source system to target system in near real time. That is, it will also be able to capture all the DDL and DML changes that you are making at the source and also replicate the same to your target in near real time. Then we have Qlik Compose for data warehouse and data lake. So with data warehouse, what we do is all the necessary SQL scripts that are need to be written to create a data warehouse, that is automated using Qlik Compose for data warehouse. And for a data lake, if you have a cloud journey, then all the Hive and Spark queries that are written to transform the data and to stitch the data together to be presented in a form that can be consumed by analytical applications, those queries and those codes are automatically generated by Qlik Compose for data lakes. Then we have Qlik Data Catalog, which acts as a repository for all your data sources. So you might have data coming from an Excel file, it could be a SQL server, it could be Oracle. So all those data can be brought into Qlik Catalog, and like a shopping experience, like an e-commerce shopping experience, users can search for the data, understand more about the data, and then consume it into a BI application, or again write it back to any other target systems if required. And on the data analytics side, along with ClickSense and QlikView, we have N printing, which is the static reporting tool, and then we have geo analytics, and we have Qlik alerting, using which users can create sophisticated alerts to track important KPIs and even do things like outlier detection. And we also have a chatbot called Insight Advisor Chat. Now, what I'm going to do is in the next step, I'm going to quickly show you some of these tools and how it can add value to your data journey. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yeah.
So what we are going to start off with first is ClickSense. And what the objective that I have over here is we have a dashboard on the mortgage analytics. What I'm going to try with this dashboard is to show various capabilities of ClickSense, and we are going to find the leads that are relevant to be pursued, because we may have some leads having very less FICO scores, therefore we can negate it, and there are several other parameters. So that is what we are going to do with this particular dashboard. Now, we have a summary level information in this first dashboard on various metrics. You can see the loan to value and FICO score chart for various private bankers, and then the FICO versus loan to value over different periods of time. Now, we can, all this is completely interactive. So maybe if you want to focus on a particular timeline, and maybe we want to focus only for the private bankers where the leads were of more than FICO score of more than 700, we can select the values and the data now gets filtered accordingly. Now, what if there is a query that the user wants to filter data of something which is not there on a dashboard, right? So if I want to understand about this particular uh, regional manager, Dustin, what he did in the New York area in 2013, we don't have all the filters available over here, but we can use the smart search option and start typing. And what will happen behind the scenes is automatically ClickSense will go and scan all the data points and return the relevant results. As you can see, Dustin is part of city, anchor, and manager. So here you can say 2013 and New York. So it will scan all the possible values. 2013 could be a registration date year or close date year. So the user can then select what is the set of filters that is relevant to them, and the data gets filtered. Therefore, users are not restricted to whatever is there in the dashboard, but they can also easily go and filter for the data that they want to filter. And apart from that, maybe if you want to drill further, we also can go to our selection options over here, and all the fields that we want to filter are available. Maybe if you want to filter based on these three branches, we can select the filter and come back to the dashboard, and we'll have that branch filter also applied. Now, moving on, what we are going to do, as I said, is to focus on the leads. Now, overall, we have 1,236 leads, and we are going to filter only for the relevant ones. So when selecting on the leads, you can see all the other values changing. And in the loan to value bucket, we can see there are two leads having a loan to value of more than 100. So this is a cause for concern. So when we select that, we can know what those two leads are. And this we might want to share info with the relevant team, that maybe we have to check this application or reject it for further action, right? So traditionally what users can do is they can download this data as a CSV or as a PDF or image, or rather they can use the inbuilt PowerPoint like option where they can take a snapshot of this particular data and go to this internal storytelling capability where we can add a slide like option and put our insights over here, and then add text saying that this has to be looked into. Therefore, what happens is all the users who will be accessing this dashboard will be able to find this information rather than downloading it as a CSV and sending to all the users. Now, similarly, what we are going to do is we are going to negate these two leads, and let's select the alternative values. That is the ones that have loan to value of less than 100. And maybe we want to focus on only the leads having a FICO score greater than 650. So we can filter it directly by typing over here. And maybe only the ones where the loan amount requested is at least $10,000. So in this way, we have the whole interactive dashboards. But what if the user wants to analyze something beyond what is there in the dashboard? So for that, they can go to our Insight Advisor. And Insight Advisor, basically behind the scenes, it has a cognitive engine running behind the scenes. So the user can just click on Generate Insights option, and the cognitive engine will scan the data and it will auto-generate charts which are relevant for analysis. So you can see these charts are now generated. Now, what users can do with this is if they feel this particular chart is very relevant for them, they can add it back to any of the existing sheet, or they can create a new sheet and add it back to the dashboard. So all the relevant insights, even before building any dashboard or charts, they will be able to get these insights. Now, apart from that, with the whatever insights that is generated, users will also have the flexibility. Maybe here you can see that almost a loan amount of 117.59 million is not assigned to any regional manager, right? So this is also a cause for concern. So we can negate this as well. And let's select all the regional managers except the unassigned values. So now we have only the relevant regional managers. Apart from this, maybe the users might want to see the data in a different way. Maybe not for loan amount, they might want to see for, let's say, number of leads. So the users will also have the flexibility to change the dimensions and measures that they want to see. And you can see the chart automatically changes. And whenever we are making this change, we can also say, learn from this change. So the machine learning model that runs behind the scenes will understand the user's preference of what dimensions and measures that they want to analyze. They'll also have the capability if they want to switch to a different chart. Maybe they don't want as a star chart, but they want as a bar chart. They can change it and again add it back to the sheets. Now, this is one way of analysis, or they can also go for specific values. Maybe they are interested to understand branch-wise, maybe the total number of leads. So they can just click on the relevant fields and the charts will now get auto-populated, which can again be added back to the sheet. Or what they can even do more is have the conversation analytics, which Ravi had just talked about. So here we can ask questions like maybe show top 5. So you can ask questions like this, and the cognitive engine will scan the data and it will be giving you the relevant results, which can again be added back to the dashboard. This can have any level of sophisticated questions. Maybe you want to compare two measures or two dimensions. You can put the questions accordingly, and automatically the NLP engine will produce the results for it. Now, along with that, we have one more area where we can get additional insights. So this is what we call as associative insights. This is going to basically tell us what is the relevance of the data filters that we have applied. So right now, all the leads that we have, right, the loan amount that are relevant to our selection is 7.7% only out of the total loan amount. So this is a cause for concern, right? This usually we would require a separate chart to go and analyze, but this associative insight is helping us to quickly understand. Similarly, we might want to understand what are the leads which are which fall under the right category, which have a greater FICO score. So we can understand that only 7.4% of the total leads fall under this category. If needed, we can go and see which are the excluded values, and we get the list of the leads over here. So this way, we are not just restricted to whatever is there in the dashboard, but we can also get the additional insights if required. Now, this is on ClickSense, and we also our unique capability is mainly on the associative difference that we have, and I've showed you some of those capabilities. Now, quickly, I'll switch to the data integration space, where we have the product, which is the Qlik Replicate, that is used to move the data from a source system to a target system. So here, the objective is going to be to move the data from a MySQL system to a SQL Server system. So I have a list of tables under the sales schema in MySQL, which I'm going to write to this replicate target database in my SQL Server system. Now, the replicate is completely GUI-driven tool, so it does not require any coding knowledge to be done, and it can be even used by any business users. So how do we set up the data pipeline? The first step would be to just configure the source and the target connections. Obviously, we'll have to connect to the databases, so we can configure the server details and the login details. Then we'll have to create a task for this, and then choose what is the source. So here my source is MySQL and target is a SQL Server. Now, once this is done, we can go and select the tables we want to replicate from MySQL. So here we have the sales schema, and now we can move all the tables that are necessary for replication, or we can even choose some among these. Now, not just replication, we can also filter the data. We can also add few basic transformations that are also available. We can rename columns, change the data type. All these are possible. Now, once these tables are selected, it's all about just running the whole process. And the tables will now be replicated into a target system, which is the SQL Server. We'll be now automatically taken to the monitor window, where we can see how the progress is going on. How many tables have been moved? What is the number of records that is getting moved? So that is something that we can monitor from this window. Now we have successfully replicated all the records. Now if you go to our target system and refresh this, we'll have all the tables that were of our interest. Now let's just focus on a particular table. Whatever I did until now, it is just moving the data like a batch load. But like I said earlier, replicate can capture the changes also that is made at the source. So here I'm going to change the contact name for this particular customer ID. So when I'm making a update statement, update a change at the source, and if you go back to replicate, we can see that there is one update captured under for the customers table. So if we go to the target now, we can see that the contact name has been changed. Same way, if we do any inserts or deletes, those changes will also be captured. Not just inserts and deletes, even if we are doing any DDL operation, that is, you are adding a column, dropping a column, changing the data type, all these will also get captured by replicate. So this is the functionality of replicate. And the next part what we have is the Qlik compose for data warehouse. So like I said, this automates the whole process of creating a data warehouse. All the SQL scripts that are necessary to build the data warehouse, that gets automated over here. Now, what I've done here is I'll show you the data model. So these are the tables which we took from our replicate task, and I'm planning to build a data warehouse using this. So the model is automatically generated and it is identified by compose. And over here, users can do a lot of things. They can define a new logic, like I've created a new column called sales over here. They can rename the columns, change the data type, and they can also very easily choose what is the slowly changing dimension that has to be allocated for each field. So this is usually done by a very complex process in SQL, but here it is completely automated. Now, after all the fields and the business logics are defined, we can create the data warehouse. And here the mapping of the source and the target system is done. And here is where we can also transform the data. Because there are inbuilt functions which can be used to transform the data or define the business logics. Now, we can also define some data quality, that is, say, whichever records have a discount of less than 0.2, capture it in an error mark, right? So after we make all this, I've been telling you about a lot of things are automated by Compose, right? So here we can see all the SQL commands or the ETL commands that are generated on the backend. So just to give you an example, we have defined about the discount rule, right? So the corresponding SQL for that has been automatically generated and written in for our data warehouse. So all these SQL commands or the ETL commands that you see will be generated in the background by Compose, and it will be run, and the data warehouse will be created in our target system. So I've created the data warehouse here in this enterprise data warehouse system. So here we will be able to see all the data warehouse tables. And we can also quickly create a data mart if required. So I can choose the data mart and choose what kind of schema that is required, all the tables that I want to be part of the new data mart. And you can see the schema is now automatically generated. And I can add a date field if required. And then here again, all the scripts, SQL scripts required to create a data mart, that is can be generated, and we can run the commands. And now the data mart will be created in the final system. So this whole process can be very quickly done and very easily too. And when we integrate replicate with Compose, we can even have the data warehouse refresh under a frequency of just 30 seconds. So we always have near real-time data. So if I now go to our target system, we can see that new data mart tables have been created. So just to give you a quick reference of some of the customers, right? We have huge, large customers, like insurance customers, Swiss Life France, who's using Replicate to feed data into their customer portal in real time. Then we have Generali, and also a Vanguard, who moved the data from mainframe system to a lot of AWS systems in real time. And you can see the kind of data volume they moved. Around 60 million records they moved in just with a latency of just 1 to 2 seconds, and the 60 million changes was per hour. So similarly, Airbus, who manufactures commercial aircraft, they also use Replicate to monitor the data from their production systems. Similarly, I spoke about Compose for data warehouse. So these are some of the customers who are using. And main takeaway is your whole process of creating the data warehouse is very quickly done, and the turnaround time is very less, and it does not involve the huge cost that is usually taken to build a data warehouse. Now, the final product that we have for the day is the Qlik Data Catalog. Before I go to that, I just wanted to also tell you about Compose for data lakes, but that I'm not getting into a deep dive right now. But over there also, just like how you saw Compose for data warehouse, in Qlik Compose for data lakes, we can automate the whole process of creating a data lake. Now coming to the catalog, this is the catalog window. Here you can see all the different tables that have been brought into catalog from multiple different systems. So users can access data from, let's say, HANA or a Snowflake table or Excel. They really wouldn't know the difference, but they can just easily access. Now, if the user wants to understand data about customers, right, they can search for it in the search bar, and all the relevant details will be relevant tables will be returned to them. So here we see there is a table called grocery sales. You can see the business name, description, how many records are there, how many fields, when it was last refreshed, how fresh the data is, does it have any quality issues, and how frequently is it used. Now, if the user is interested to analyze this table further, right, they can click over here and go to the particular table where they can find the tags, they can find business description, lineage, sample data, and they can also get a profiling of the data. That is how many nulls are there, what is the unique number of records, minimum and maximum, and there are several other properties which can also be enabled. So for example, here we can go and see the profiling of data and the distribution of the data. Similarly, we can also see what are the related entities. Just like when you go to e-commerce platform, you get a recommendation to purchase another product, right? Similarly, we also get the related entities. So what does the user do with all this? They can say that, okay, I'm interested in this particular data source or multiple data sources. I'll add it to the cart. Now, they can either create a new data set or they can write it again to any other database like SQL Server or Redshift, or they can create a new ETL if they want, or they can directly publish this into ClickSense or Power BI or Tableau. So it is tool agnostic. It works with multiple tools as well. So when they click on this button, these two tables will be directly loaded into a ClickSense model and the user will be able to analyze the data further. Similarly, we also have a preparation module here where the business users can prepare their own ETL flow with just a simple drag and drop. So you see join, transformations, aggregation, sort, all the typical ETL applications operations can be done over here by a simple drag and drop. And we also have robust security features. So you might want to restrict the access of some of the data to some users. Maybe you want to mask some sensitive data, maybe some data like Aadhaar you don't want to expose, so it can be masked. So these kind of security restrictions can also be implemented at the end. So to summarize, the whole process of what we do is that we can take your data. Here we can take your data from the source systems and we can move it in real time or in a batch into your target system. It could be a relational database or it could be a data lake, and the process of creating a data warehouse and data lake is also automated, from which data can be onboarded into data catalog and then finally consumed into any BI applications. So this is how the end-to-end analytic story or analytic products of Qlik can help you solve and address your business queries.
Thank you, Ashwath, for the great presentation. I'm sure we have all learned a lot from what you have showed today. Swati, quickly, could you just bring up the poll questions, please?
Yes, sure.
I would request all to take a second and kindly vote. Thank you for your contribution to this webinar. We have a lot of questions that have come up, Ravi and Ashwath, but due to scarcity of time, I'm afraid we'll have to connect with each of them individually and take up the questions. In short, I would like to thank one and all for your contribution, for your participation, and hope to have your presence and attendance for such more great sessions. Thank you for your time, all of you.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you all.